Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ntsapho Makibi, and I'm joining you from South Africa. Happy World Environmental Day. Today, we have discussed very insightful topics pertaining to how do we preserve our planet for the future generation. Lovely background.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to start off the session by introducing Dr. Mikki-Mccomb-Kobza. Is it fine if I refer to you as Dr. Mikki?
Sure, that's great.
Okay, thank you so much. So the topic that we're going to be discussing with Dr. Mikki is plastic pollution education and action, field research and solution. Just a background on Dr. Mikki. She's an applied conservation biologist with over 20 years experience in researching endangered species and advancing marine economy, ecosystem restoration. Her primary research focus is upon biology, the behavior, abundance, and movement of shark using novel methodologies. Dr. Mikki uses a multi-stakeholder strategy to advance in science-based conservation initiative across disciplines. She has led and participated in 40 marine research expeditions, including the region of Darwin, Cape Town, Manias, Hong Kong, Nova Scotia, Belize, and the eastern coast of the United States. Dr. Mikki is the co-founder and executive director of the Ocean First Institute, a Boulder-based nonprofit dedicated to marine research, conservation, and education. The Institute has researched thousands of students in local Front Range schools, as well as over 170,000 schools in 35 countries and 46 US states. The Institute has received national recognition for establishing high-profile conservation projects and providing compelling educational programs. Wow, this sounds incredible. I can't wait to learn from you and to hear from our other speaker. So if you are ready, I think you can take it away with your presentation.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, thank you
Thank
so much, and happy World Environment Day. Thank you for having me here. My name is Dr. Mikki-Mccomb-Kobza. I'm the director of Ocean First Institute, and I'm here today to talk to you about plastic pollution and a program that the Institute has started to really highlight the pervasive issue of microplastics and microfibers. Next slide. Thank you. So we are working with local schools in Colorado, of all places, right in the inland of the United States. And we're providing opportunities for students to be able to sample local rivers and streams in the water and in the sediment to look for microplastics and microfibers. So just a little bit of background on how this all started. Next slide, please. So I'm in Colorado, as I mentioned, and so I saw the results of a study that really impacted me about 3 years ago. And so there was a researcher who worked in Rocky Mountain National Park. And this researcher was interested in rain and was setting out all across the Rocky Mountains rain gauges to collect rain that was falling to do studies on that. And when he started processing his samples, he started to discover microfibers. And so this was a surprise to him. And he put out a report of his findings. In 80% of his samples, he found microfibers. And the headline was that it was literally raining plastic in the Rocky Mountains. So this caught my attention, and I decided to try to see what I could find in my local region in our watersheds. And so we started a program with Lyons High School, which is local to me, where we took high school students into our river, the St. Vrain River, and we collected water samples and also sediment samples with students to see if we could find and detect microfibers or microplastics. Next slide. And so you can see here we are right on the banks of the river collecting sediments right at the water line to see if we can find microplastics or microfibers. Next slide. And so that's exactly what students did. We went through a few different methodologies of collecting or getting the microplastics and microfibers out of the sediments. That was a little bit of a challenge. And so we created some novel equipment to help us locate and get those microplastics and microfibers out of the sediments. But when we did, students were able to quantify what they were finding in the samples. And what we found was really surprising. Next slide. So our results, over the last 3 years, we've received funding to do microplastics and microfiber sampling in 6 counties in Colorado. And out of our 226 samples, we're finding 10 microplastics in water on average and 22 in the sediments. This was really, really surprising to us to find this much. And we only had one sample that we didn't find anything in. So it really is ubiquitous. It is widespread. And what's unique to us is that our Colorado watersheds, we are at the very top of the Colorado Rocky Mountain, the Continental Divide. And so our water flows from right here in Colorado to the Pacific Ocean, and then it also drains into the Gulf of Mexico. So we are uniquely positioned to have an impact with our rivers, where they go and what they carry. And we know that 80% of plastic pollution originates inland. And so this is a really interesting place, I believe, to look at the issue of plastic and how we can really address it. Next slide, please. So, what has been exciting for us is that this 3-year project has really grown, and it has now allowed us to branch out into our new location in the Florida Keys. And so the vision we have now is to be able to go from literally the Rockies to the reefs and to follow this path of microplastics and microfibers in areas inland all the way to the ocean. And so our new project that we've recently been funded for is to look for microplastics and microfibers in ocean water off of the Florida Keys. And this has been really exciting because we're able to, again, replicate our program into high schools there in the Florida Keys to bring students out onto the boat. So you can see that large net, that's one of our tows. And what's exciting is that we're able to then analyze these samples. So next slide. We were able to get a grant now to work with a lab in Florida to do spectral analysis of our samples. And so this is really exciting. We have what is called an FTIR, which is infrared spectroscope. And what it does is we can put our samples into this machine, and it will tell us the actual composition of the plastics. And that allows us to do a little bit of sleuthing on where this plastic came from. What is the origin of it? And that's really helpful when we're trying to understand the sources of the plastic and how we can really work together with the community to try to remove these plastics. And so this has been a very powerful tool that we've been able to utilize. Next slide. And then this is one of my favorite parts of our program. So we strive to really have our students report out the data. And this has been critical for us to understand spatially in all the different counties in Colorado, what are we finding? Which rivers are more of a hot spot than others? And so students report out in a scientific way, either through posters or oral talks, what they found in their schools and in their local backyard streams. And this has been a powerful way for students to understand the value of science, how to do research, how to analyze data, and then to report out what they find. And again, this has been a really powerful way for students to get engaged. Next slide. And one of the best parts of the student summits is that we have partnered with green products and green companies that provide the solutions that we need to be widespread throughout our communities. And so these are things like washer sheets that replace traditional liquid detergents, or toothpastes that don't have the casings that are disposed into landfills. very simple things that we put into the hands of our students and their families so that when they go home on day one, they're actually making a difference and they're incorporating some of the very simple solutions into their everyday lives right out of the gate. And that has proven to be a really empowering part of our programs. You know, when you think about the nature of plastic pollution and how much there is, it can become a bit of an overwhelming issue. But to be able to find solutions and to put those solutions into the hands of those that can make a difference has, for us, been a really big game changer and something that we find is a very positive a solution for moving forward. So with that, I'll stop and take any questions if anyone has any.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Mikki, for that insightful presentation. I think it's very important in looking at conserving the world and including students in that work. So brilliant work and congratulations for all that you've done. So I've got a question. So under your leadership, the Ocean First Institute has done pretty well, more especially in research, conservation, and education. What are some of the innovative approaches or programs that you have implemented to educate students and also to raise awareness around plastic pollution and its environmental consequences? Maybe some of that are listening from other parts of the world, they can sort of replicate those in their respective environments.
Yeah, you know, sure. I mean, I think, you know, one of the biggest issue is just how ubiquitous all of this is. And, you know, we know that 80% of pollution that goes into the ocean comes from inland sources. And so for us, you know, to be able to have these educational programs and to have students understand that there are solutions that they can incorporate in their daily lives has been a really big part of what we do. We also connect a lot of our river work, not only with plastic pollution, but we do a lot of restoration of animals. So we do a lot of native fish restoration projects. So not only is it what's in the water and how we can, you know, try to stop getting plastic into the water, but also having a healthy enough ocean to sustain native fish. So it's hand in hand. You know, not only are we trying to remove plastic, but we're also trying to put back into the rivers some of those important species that are keystone and really important. So I would say, you know, for someone looking to incorporate a new project like this, you know, start off with doing some monitoring and then start building the capacity with your partners. You know, we can't do this work alone. We have so many partners in our community that help us achieve these successes. So it's been really great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Mikki. I want